Why does Uncle Sam feed North Korea? True kindness or strategy? And why the cold shoulder in return? Back in 1995, North Korea faced a colossal flood, smashing its frail farm scene. They hit a brutal famine with death tolls rising. Desperate, they hollered for help from the US Pantry, the World Food Program, that kick-started a record-breaking relief gig. From 1996 through 2004, the World Food Program doled out tons of grub. This footed the bill for over half. The U.S. public enemy #1 for North Korea, yet, as the food stacked up, so did the anti-American ransom rallies. So what's the scoop on the aid tally? Why keep the pantry open for country blasting Uncle Sam's name? Is it purely out of a humanitarian heart? How come North Korea isn't saying thanks? Stay tuned, I'm about to spill the beans on this puzzle. After the Korean War, America kept its strategy towards North Korea pretty straightforward, honing in on two goals: holding back any hostile moves against South Korea and freezing out trade with the North from our bloc. Meanwhile, North Korea was thriving under the Soviet system's cheap energy and economic aid, seemingly untouchable, even as their fortunes began to slide in the 80s. But when December 1991 rolled around, the game changed. The once mighty Soviet Union crumbled, signaling the Cold War's final curtain. For many countries, it was a sigh of relief. Not for North Korea, though. They'd been riding the Soviet coattails, boasting an industrial setup, gulping energy like there was no tomorrow. Even in the stagnant 90s, their per capita energy use was double that of China's. Fast forward a few years and the machinery grinds to a halt. No cheap tools, trade dries up, and scrambles for foreign currency and essential imports send the nation into a downward spiral. Then comes the storm, literally. In July 95, epic floods battered North Korea's wheat agriculture, wiping out 2 million tons of food and displacing millions. With such a dire backdrop, North Korea swallowed its pride and yelled for help. And in a twist, the US, the arch-enemy, came through with food, medical aid, and energy. From 1996 to 2014, America pitched in over 2 million tons of food, touching close to $700 million worth. Every year, that's enough grub to keep nearly 1 million North Koreans out of hunger. Now, let's talk numbers. The World Food Program reckoned 50,000 tons could steer 6.5 million folks clear of danger. America's contribution? Enough to potentially save 3 million lives a year. Think about it, millions of North Koreans alive today might owe it to Uncle Sam's rations, and that's not counting the 400 million in energy and medical aid. Yet, the kicker is that those who got a helping hand may not even know the hand that fed them. Instead, they're out there chanting anti-American slogans. A bit ironic, don't you think? After digesting all that's been said, you might think the US is playing the same, right? Even with North Korea as the foe, they're out there, arms wide with aid. It's an act of humanitarian spirit that deserves a nod. But let's cut to the chase. Is America's help all about that human kindness? Not quite. It's not just about bleeding hearts. If leaders made massive aid decisions on just heartstring, then frankly, they wouldn't cut it in the game of governance. So if it's not all warm and fuzzy altruism, why would the US lend a hand to a nation that's been eyeing it sideways for so long? Here's the scoop. On the global stage, every country's moves are about the chess game of power. It's about looking out for national interest, keeping the homeland safe and sound. And for aid, that's part of the strategy. There are three big games of hold power: extend it and flaunt it. A nation props up an ally that's holding down the fort, boosting the squad and pumping up its street cred. And when a country puffs up its way through aid, be it in the economy, the polity, or the military, that's power on the upswing. Then there's the preangle. It's a stellar move for the global ratbag's goodwill, flashes clout, that's power all parade. So frame it up this way, and the US aid to North Korea, it starts to click. First up, let's talk power play. America rolling out aid to North Korea? It's all part of the big picture Asia-Pacific chessboard. Every move's designed to cement its dominance, boxing out the rising economies. Take the East Asia Security Reports, for instance. A prime slice of its interest is making sure no hostile power gets to boss the Asia-Pacific around, politically or economically. And then there's the 96 Report on National Interests, harping on the same tune. The key mission in America's Asia-Pacific strategy: block any threat to the US stature, the Korean Peninsula. It's a linchpin in maintaining regional power balance. So the S deemed tighten the grip and back up South Korea, while keeping North Korea's growth in check and nudging it towards a shift, mainly away from leaning on China. For such ends foreign aid, that's the ace up the sleeve. Doling out goods North Korea's dying for keeps the status quo, cause desperation makes you go crazy stunts, right? Plus, should it cozy up in return, patching up the peninsula's fight, that's jackpot. Worst case scenario, use the surplus grain to keep the covenant going, saving a seat at the table for later. Then there's the second and central objective of S8 to North Korea power expansion. It manifests in a few core areas. Firstly, Food aid is a bargaining chip. The S has long wielded Food S leverage, coaxing North Korea into concessions, demanding collaboration on various fronts, a level of cooperation previously unimaginable for the US. Back in April 1997, as the S spearheaded the four-party talks, North Korea initially balked. Come July, with 1.5 million tons of food aid on the table, the talks took off. Then, amid rumors of underground nuclear facilities at Kumchunri in August 1998, the US dangled 500,000 tons of food aid for inspection rights, and it worked. Another example is the early 2012 deal, trying to exchange 200,000 tons of food aid to stop North Korean satellite launches. It flopped, with North Korea orbiting their Kwangaman Jizwai-3 satellite using the Humanitarian rocket. Despite mixed results, these maneuvers undoubtedly expanded US influence over North Korea. Even American reports concede that their aid isn't purely humanitarian but geostrategically motivated. It's not about the local needs but strategy. For instance, during the early 90s, North Korea's cries for aid went unheeded. The power play's second act comes to the intelligence garnered under the guise of food aid. It's not as simple as dumping food at a drop-off point. Recipients need to comply and meet conditions. North Korea isn't just sending reports but must also allow World Food Program staff to assess and oversee distribution, increasing from visits to 50s of counties in 1998 to 85 by 2004. Surveillance visits skyrocketed from 265 in 2000 to 513 by 2003. Inspectors even gained direct access to Pyongyang and its agricultural markets. One more thing, in 1997, the World Food Program used the cessation of aid as leverage, compelling North Korea to permit field inspections in its northeast regions. While these actions were chiefly conducted by staff with the primary goal of ensuring a rich dose of meat, they inadvertently collected data and details previously inaccessible to outsiders, with some so-called non-governmental organizations acting as de facto spies, and it's the big players, the US and Japan, funnily aid to the World Food Program. They're even calling the shots on some stringent monitoring stipulations, making food aid a legit way for Uncle Sam to get the inside scoop on North Korea's state of affairs, all crucial intel for crafting military and strategic plans. For context, countries like China and South Korea deliver aid through direct bilateral agreements with way fewer strings attached. Thirdly, food aid is a tool to dampen the North Korean threat. It's common for aid packages to sport the donor country's flags or slogans, a matter of visibility. But the US takes it up a notch, not only marking packages with clear country of origin labels but also imposing tough demands, like choosing sensitive areas for aid transport routes and insisting on American personnel for on-the-ground oversight. North Korea, mighty proud of its nationalism, reels under this, especially since it comes from capitalist nations. It's America's jab at their dignity, ensuring locals witness aid distribution. A scene was reported by the Associated Press on May 24, 1997, as a humiliation when trucks branded with foreign aid drove to the demilitarized zone. Lastly, it's about showcasing power. To maintain an image of a strong superpower, you need the muscle and economic sanctions and sprinkle in some mercy, wrap up nicely as humanity's beacon, like many medmates who fancy dabbling as philanthropists. No one wants to be labeled heartless. Humanitarian efforts don't just boost the nation's rap among the recipients, they paint a rosy picture on the global stage, swaying international public opinion and napping narrative control. Here's the gist of why the US is dishing out aid to North Korea.